So tonight we're going to be joined by 9 women, all pioneers in their own right. From our keynote speaker, the Honorable Judge Helen Whitener, to our panel of criminal justice professionals you're going to get a chance to meet. These women together represent 149 years of progress that women have made, to apply, and to execute the laws of the United States. We hope tonight that you all find your inspiration to meet and face any challenges that you may have to face, so you too can triumph like the women before you, and of course all of you. So without further delay, I would like to introduce our keynote speaker, the Honorable Judge Helen Whitener. She is one of our very own Pierce County Superior Court judges. Her journey to the bench is a remarkable one, and I encourage her to share her story with us. Thank you, Helen.
Wow. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming out at 5:30. The weather isn't too bad, so that's good. Thank you, Professor. I appreciate it for giving me this opportunity to speak to everyone. And thank you for Pierce College for putting on this event to empower and inspire all of you who are interested, or maybe not, to pursuing a career in the criminal justice system. I came to this country at the age of 16 to attend university. 16. I was born on a Caribbean island of Trinidad and Tobago. So 16 years old, my parents placed me on a plane and sent me to this foreign land. That was a pretty scary thing, but I knew that I wanted to better my life. 16 years old. So it can start young, or you can be as old as, I don't know, 90, 95. Education has no age. So at 16 years old, I came to the US, and I thought I would be a teacher. You know, my parents were educators. My mother was a teacher. My father was a teacher. He retired as a school principal. So at 16 years old, I'm in a foreign country, and I had to pretty much ask myself what I'm going to ask you to ask yourself this evening. Why are you here? Pretty simple question. But really, why are you here? I was here at that age trying to pursue an undergraduate degree because I wanted to make a difference. I thought I'd be a teacher. So I went to school thinking I'd become a teacher, because that's what I was familiar with, my parents being educators. Boy, was I wrong. During my undergraduate degree, I realized that I could make money with a business degree. So I majored in international marketing, thinking at 16, you know, I'm graduating. It took me literally 5 years, not 4, but 5, to graduate in a 4-year program. And I'll tell you about that in a minute. But it took me a while to figure out that making money wasn't everything. Coming from a small island, I thought, you know, the United States, money grew on trees. You know, so it was important to make money. And I realized at that young age, as I was working through my education, that money wasn't everything. So I went back to my core values of service, which is what my parents were as educators. And I've never lost track of that. What you don't know about my background, I will now tell you. Yes, I'm a Pierce County Superior Court judge. I am your first immigrant-born judge. I am your first openly gay judge. And I'm openly gay, first Black openly gay judge for the state of Washington. I learned that not too long ago. I am also disabled. Disability is not always visual. So I maneuver through an able-bodied world as a physically disabled individual. So I'm a black female, lesbian, immigrant, disabled person. Can you add another label on me? All those labels, the reason why I'm telling you about them is because all of those labels are tied to disenfranchisement, which means I should not be standing here as a Superior Court judge. Because at every avenue of my life, I was told that I would not amount to anything because of the color of my skin, because of my gender, because I was a foreigner, because I was disabled and needed accommodations. And then, what you also don't know is coming from that Caribbean island of Trinidad and Tobago, it is technically still today illegal to be openly gay. So I was subject to at least 25 years of incarceration for being an openly gay individual. This was a criminal act. And I can only say was because less than a month ago, the High Court in Trinidad and Tobago found the law unconstitutional. So it still has its way of working, time to work through the court system. But imagine that. So all facets of me, I shouldn't be a failure. But failure is not an option. I consider failure an opportunity to succeed. So every time, as I tell you about my journey, you will hear about different failures that I encountered and how I turned them into opportunities to get to this point. So, my legal career started around 1995 when I emigrated. Well, I didn't emigrate, but I moved from Alaska to Washington State. Now, you're probably asking, how did this island girl end up in Alaska to begin with? I went from New York City, after I completed my undergraduate degree in international marketing and trade, to Alaska. Culture shock. I literally called the police because there was a moose in the backyard and I thought it had escaped from the zoo. That's how much culture shock there was. And to this day, I'm nervous about them finding that recording because, we have reality TV, so. But yeah, I did call the police. But after working in international marketing and trade, because the Pacific hub is in Anchorage, Alaska. And it just was too cold for this island girl. So I was heading back to Trinidad and Tobago. I had had it with the weather here in the United States. I was done. I was going to go back home, work in whatever field, business, visit the beach, have a good life. And a friend in Washington said, before you do that, how about you check out Washington State? So my question was, what is in Washington State? The only Washington I knew was DC. And she said, it's similar to Trinidad and Tobago. How? Yeah, how? The people were warm, very much like an island. The opportunities are there if you want them. And the weather is like Trinidad, rainy. Wet and dry, we have at home, here, rainy. So I thought I'd give Washington a chance. Now, at the time, residing in Alaska, I was raising 4 girls with my partner at the time. We got these children because my partner's daughter became a victim of the drug epidemic and was about to lose her children to the state of Alaska. And we stepped in and took all 4 girls. The youngest was still in the hospital, less than a month, and the eldest was about 8 years old. Now I'm a young girl. I know nothing about raising children, but I stepped in with her to make sure they did not become a statistics. This was, you have to remember, at a time when non-traditional families were unheard of. So when I moved to Washington State, in tow with 4 young girls and my ex, I thought I would just get a job, any job will do, and that would be the end of it. I got a job working at an accounting firm in Bellevue, doing accounts receivable. The reason I tell you that is, remember, my background was international marketing and trade, but I needed a job because I had mouths to feed. And I worked in accounting, and I did one project for one of the partners in that firm. And after completing that project, he said, "Have you considered law school?" What? It's accounting. How do you get from accounting to law school? And he said, because, now you know, if you were in my courtroom, I'd take that phone. No, I'm kidding. Actually, if you were, I would take the phone. But, so he said, you should consider law school. And I thought, wow, that's a leap. And I asked him why. And he said, because your analytical skills on this project that I gave you indicates to me that you have potential. So all you have to do is plant the seed. So I took off to check into law school, and I asked him, where did you go? And he said, UPS, University of Puget Sound, law school at the time. And it turned out there was no such thing when I checked. It had actually changed its name to Seattle University Law School. So I realized, okay, I am going to check into this. He said, why don't you consider law school? So I considered it, only to find out it takes money. Yeah, lots of it. And my finances were limited, to say the least. I decided to check into what requirements are needed. And I had the requirements. What I didn't have was the law school admissions test results. So I checked into that, only to find out that costs money too. Didn't have it. So instead of giving up on this dream, I decided the next best thing. I had a law library card, and I checked out the book out of the law school library. Actually, the public library, not the law school library. And I studied every evening at my kitchen table. Got in to law school. That was going to be a wonderful start to me being financially abled. Well, got into law school, and within 1 year of being in law school, I lost my family. The marriage, or the relationship, it wasn't even a marriage, in our minds it was, ended. Law school can play havoc on relationships. And I lost not only my ex, but the 4 girls as well, because they came with her. I was devastated, and I easily could have said, that's it, I'm done, I'm out of here. But I had started on a trajectory, law school. That didn't end with the relationship, so I continued on. The reason that's relevant is when you're raising a family, you have pooled income. So at the end of the relationship, there went part of my income. And how am I going to now stay in law school? I had financial aid, but I'm a hard worker, so I ended up getting 3 jobs. I'm a true immigrant. 3 jobs. I worked teaching criminal law, so I was a teaching assistant. I worked nights at the bank, and I was lucky enough to get a position with the Attorney General's office as the law clerk. And all of this will become relevant as I finish my history and my journey. So, 3 jobs. I could not afford a budget bigger than $25 a month for food. I would go to the grocery store. I think it was grocery outlet at that time on Mildred and in Tacoma. And I would buy boxes of Top Ramen. I would buy boxes of eggs because I needed my protein, even though they said it would kill you if you eat too many. But I needed that, that's what I could afford. Because the bigger goal was finishing law school. And then, opportunities would be all over the place, right? So I made it through with my 3 jobs, and then I got ill towards the end of law school. And the reason why that's relevant is don't lose focus of your health as you pursue your goals. I was so driven and on this limited income that I lost focus of what was important in getting there, which was my health. I did not have insurance, so I didn't know what was going on. And a friend loaned me some money to go see the doctor, and I did, and found out I had diabetes. I was so healthy before that in my mind that I had no idea what diabetes was, so I thought it was a death sentence, and I started crying. But not one to be down for long, I realized I needed to take a semester off, concentrate on me, still have to do the 3 jobs, but at least I won't have the studying to do, and then go back at it and finish. I had 10 credits to complete. I walked with my class in May of 1998. However, I had to go back and complete it, and I ended it in December of 1998. The reason why that's relevant is, remember, my focus was I needed to get a job because I did not know where my funds were going to come from. Well, you can graduate law school, but you need to pass the bar to become an attorney. So I needed to pass the bar after graduating in December of 1998. But I just had taken a semester off, so funds are tight. So, checked into what will it cost to take the bar prep course. And I realized I would still have to work and take this bar prep course. And they suggest that you not do that so that you can concentrate on this examination, which is pretty tough. And I was lucky enough to have taught one of the students. Remember, I was a teaching assistant, not just for criminal law, but also for contracts in my 3rd year. And she said to me, because I was chatting with her, and I said, oh, this is going to be really hard, and I can't afford not to pass. And she said, tell you what, Helen, because she had failed when she took it, because she graduated in May. And she said, if you would study with me, I will loan you at no interest rate $5,000, which would allow you to take the bar prep course and not have to work. That was a godsend. So I took her up on that, and I took a short leave from my job. Not passing the bar exam would have meant the possibility of me being homeless, would have meant not being able to feed myself. My car was a '78 Volkswagen Dasher. Passenger door did not work. The girls, when I had them, hated when I had to drop them off to school. Would ask me, Auntie Helen, could you drop us around the corner? So they could not be seen in this hoopty, I call it. But it drove. In the winter time, I left home early because it didn't have heat, so I had to have the window down. But it got me to where I needed to go, which was school in downtown Tacoma. At one point, the windshield wipers fell off, I'm an island girl. You improvise. I took a clothes hanger and literally had a friend in the front seat, and we would pull each side while I held on. Okay? You do what you have to do. Sacrifice is key. So I got to a point where, passed the exam, wonderful. I had some job offers, great. And then there was a hiring freeze. I almost passed out. The job that I wanted with the city of Tacoma prosecutor's office, there was a hiring freeze, so no job. Luckily, my first year of being a law clerk, I made contacts with the City of Olympia prosecutor's office, and I ended up getting a 6-month temporary job with the City of Olympia prosecutor's office. Turned out some colleagues that had mentored me, actually, with the AG's office was now there, and I got a job there. 6 months, you would think, well, and it's part-time. Why bother? Well, I had my job at the bank at night, and by the way, did I tell you my 3 jobs? Teaching assistant, AG's office, and I worked at the bank at night doing 10 key. I still to this day can do a 10 key without even looking. It's a skill. Maybe one day I might need it, hopefully not. But here it is. I was without a job, and that contact assisted me. So I went to work for the City of Olympia prosecutor's office. What I didn't tell you is during law school, one of the things I wanted to make sure I did before graduating was get as much experience as possible. So you know about 3 of the jobs. Well, when I was a law clerk, it was with the Department of Corrections, the AG's office, and they handled the Department of Corrections. And AG's is the Attorney General's office, by the way. And it's now the Criminal Justice Division. One of the contacts I made there was a woman named Mary Fairhurst. She's now Justice Mary Fairhurst, our Chief Justice of the Washington Supreme Court. Back then, she was an AG. I also made contact with an Attorney General named Kayla Wilcox. And Kayla mentored me. She was a AG who later went to the City of Olympia prosecutor's office and who is now a Thurston County District Court judge. Contacts, mentoring, mentorship. When I worked with the AG's office in Olympia, the hoopty would get me down there, but I wasn't sure if it would get me back. So after putting in that semester, I asked, can I be transferred to a location closer to home, which was Tacoma? And I transferred to the Department of Labor and Industries in downtown Tacoma. They handled dependency actions. That later came to be useful. All of these connections, as I end, you'll notice, came together full circle. When I worked with the AG's office doing dependencies, I learned about the criminal juvenile system. I also learned about families and dysfunctional families and how they are dealt with in the legal system, in the courts. After putting in some time there, I wanted trial experience. So I asked, where's the next best place to get that? And my mentors told me, try the Pierce County Prosecutor's Office. I'm still in law school, by the way. So I went there one semester, and I worked in truancies. The importance of that is back then, there was a Becca bill that had just come out to address truancies because of a runaway who ended up being assaulted, sexually assaulted and killed by a 30-year-old man. So I learned about that part of the legal system then. But it still wasn't where I thought I needed to be because I wanted to do like I saw on TV, juries, you know, and I still hadn't gotten there. So I asked, where is the next best thing or place to get that experience? And they said, try the city of Tacoma prosecutor's office. So I did. And that's where I got the first connection with the criminal justice system of any substance. Because as a prosecutor, you're representing victims of crime. And on that level, you're dealing with misdemeanors. And it's a court of rehabilitation, so you're trying to address people and their daily issues as they come before the courts. And I loved that job. It was very, very high in density. Dockets were very large. But all of that was in law school. And I had jumped forward to tell you about when I graduated, where I ended up, remember? City of Olympia prosecutor's office. So on paper, I had a lot of experiences, but there was that hiring freeze, so I had to go to City of Olympia prosecutor's office. And the connector there was Kayla Wilcox, the former Assistant Attorney General that I had met when I was a law clerk, who was now in that office. And Kayla got me a 6-month assignment, temporary, but I was willing to take whatever because I had bills to pay. Didn't have a family, but I could write an encyclopedia on what it is to be broke, so I had bills to pay. And so while taking that opportunity with the City of Olympia prosecutor's office, I'm still hoping I can get a permanent job. And it came. Kayla came in one day and she said, there's an opening in Island County prosecutor's office. Are you interested? Yes. To be honest, I hadn't a clue where Island County was, did not care. It was a job. She said, well, apply and, you know, I'll give you a recommendation. So I did. I was interviewed over the phone because later on I found out Island County was a good way away. It was up past Whatcom County, not Whatcom, up past, well, I had to take the ferry to get there. So I had to go up north. And I had not really gone anywhere past Seattle. So I hadn't a clue, but it was a job. And I will go where the job is at. Well, I have the hoopty. I don't have anybody in Island County. And I commuted from Renton. And the reason I ended up in Renton is I gave up my apartment in Pierce County because I needed to be as close as possible to Island County. And Pierce County was a little south. But the only person I knew north of Pierce County was a friend who lived in Renton. So she allowed me to stay with her because, again, I'm getting a full-time job. I drove from Renton to Island County prosecutor's office every day for about 2 months. After the first month, I took my first paycheck and purchased my second hoopty vehicle, secondhand. This one, I didn't have to use a clothes hanger. Heat was in it, but it was an old vehicle. I mean, one of those big square Cadillac things. I didn't care, it ran. There's no pride in having a vehicle. It runs. So I had the vehicle. I felt secure in knowing I could get to work because I had to leave some crazy hours because it was a 2-hour commute technically because I had the ferry to catch. And I had the ferry to catch way up north past Everett. But it was a job. So once I got the job, I got the car, The commute was killing me. So I decided my second paycheck I would use to get a place. So I moved, and I moved to Island County. And the reason I'm telling you this is opportunities come sometimes in the most unusual places. But if you're not flexible enough to take advantage of it, it can pass you by. So I moved to Island County, beautiful place. It's an island. I'm from an island. That's how I justified it anyway. And it was a great move, and here's why. I had been trying to get a prosecutor's job, Pierce County, right? Bigger county, larger prosecutor's office. And I end up in Island County, smaller. Landmass about the same, but smaller office. And a smaller office, unbeknownst to me, gave me more experiences in a short, compact time frame than if I had stayed in Pierce County. I not only was able to handle misdemeanors, but I got to handle felonies, all levels of felonies. I got to handle appeals. And of course, I still did many trials. So within a year, I'm chatting with one of my girls. We still stayed in contact. She had gotten into trouble, a theft charge, a misdemeanor. And she's chatting with me, Auntie Helen, they called me. So Auntie Helen, I got into trouble. What happened? I was with some friends, and we took some items out of the store, and I'm charged with theft. Okay, what's going on? Do you have an attorney? Yes. And of course, she couldn't afford an attorney, so she had a public defender. And I said, well, who's your public defender? And it turned out it was one of the attorneys that I had worked opposite of when I was a prosecutor with the city as a Rule 9. He was a public defender at the time. He was an attorney. I was a Rule 9 intern with the prosecutor's office. When you're in school, you're Rule 9. And I said, say hello to him for me. He is pretty good. You'll be okay. Just follow what he says, and you'll be just fine. And if you're not sure, check with Auntie Helen. So she did chat with him and told him, hey, by the way, my aunt is Helen Whitener. And he said, no way. And exchanged numbers. Literally 2 weeks later, I get a call. And I'm chatting with him, and he says, so how is it out in Island County? Wonderful, but it's not like home. You know, I'm making friends and everything. Everyone is wonderful, but I miss Pierce County. And he said, well, there's an opening at the public defender's office. Yeah, I just got here. I just made a year. I'm good. I'm stable, paying the bills. Not about to shake that. You know, not about to become unstable again. And he says, well, at least try. You know, what do you got to lose? I say, all right, but I'm not coming to Pierce County for an interview. So he chatted with his bosses, and they agreed to a telephone interview. What's interesting about that is the interview I had to move from City of Olympia to Island County was over the phone. And here it is, I'm getting an interview to move from Island County back to Pierce County with a phone interview. So I knew it could happen. So I had an interview over the phone. And I thought, okay, they're not interested in a prosecutor doing public defense. That's the end of that. And needless to say, I got the job offer. I spoke, of course, with my supervisor at the time, Greg Banks. He's still the Island County prosecutor, wonderful man, mentor. And he was like, with my blessings, you may go. I was gone, because I was getting a chance to come back, what I consider home, you know, my stomping ground, where I had literally grown up through the system. But here it is, a phone call. I'm leaving now Island County Prosecutor's Office to do public defense. Prosecution is a very esteemed position. It is a position where you're taking care of the community. Public defense is on the other spectrum. It is just as important in the criminal justice system, but it does not get the credit that it's due. Public defenders are overworked, underpaid, and don't have as many resources, but they hold in their hands the lives of so many individuals who are impacted disproportionately by the legal system. So I was excited to put on a different hat, and this time my client was going to be individuals impacted by the legal system, charged with crimes, accused of offenses. This was my chance to get to know these individuals. I had family members who had been in the system, but I didn't have to defend them. These were strangers that I was going to help the best way that I could. And I'm glad I did it, because it opened my eyes to the plight of marginalized individuals such as myself as they maneuver their way through the criminal justice system. I did public defense for about 2 years, and I was handling a murder case with a colleague of mine. We were co-counsels on a murder case. A gentleman had killed his wife on the North End, and we were defending him. And at the end of that case, I was recruited by the prosecutors who were up against me in that case, back to prosecution. To this day, I laugh at that because I think they wanted to get rid of me from the defense side, so they recruited me back. And I took that opportunity because now I knew how the system really worked. Defense, prosecution. And maybe I can make a difference now on the prosecution end, when before, even though I did it, I didn't understand the import of what it meant to be a good prosecutor. So I did that, and I went back to prosecution here at Pierce County Prosecutor's Office. I know, this girl's been around the world, and that's me. So I went back to prosecution, and after doing that for about a year and a half, I decided that I wanted to step out on my own. I wanted to do what I wanted to do in the legal system. And here's where everything came full circle. The day I started my practice, it was a one-room, real small room office. The second day, I was on the bench as a pro tem judge because one of the judges that had seen me coming through the ranks, Judge Kenworthy, he's retired now, placed me on the bench in his courtroom. So I started getting judicial experience because he thought one day I'd be a good candidate for a judgeship. So the second day, I started my practice, and I was on the bench pro temping for Judge Kenworthy, and I kept being asked to cover different judges' calendars, and that was for Pierce County District Court. I also got to pro tem for Pierce County Municipal Court, the court that I came up through the ranks on for the City of Tacoma Prosecutor's Office, that court. I also had a part-time contract with the City of Olympia Prosecutor's Office, mentoring, relationships. See how they're coming together now that I'm out on my own? I was on the panel for the Department of Assigned Counsel. I had a contract doing public defense, reduced rate defense. Even though I had a private practice, I wanted to still give back. And the way to do that was to participate on that panel and take cases at a reduced rate. I also had a contract with the state of Washington representing sexually violent predators. By the time I ended my private practice, I had about 7 of those clients. those individuals really needed representation because they're the clients that nobody wants to have, but yet they need a voice. So here it is, the law office of G. Helen Whitener, pro tem judge, part-time prosecutor, public defender, building a private criminal and civil practice, doing dependencies, doing misdemeanors and felonies, and representing sexually violent predators. My practice was so well received and did so well that I took on 2 partners in 2008. In 2010, and we have law enforcement officers here, I came actually to a crossroads in that I took on one of the most difficult cases I've ever had to take on, because I had built a relationship with prosecutors. I had built a relationship doing defense work. I had built relationships with the participants in the system, different stakeholders, social workers, law enforcement, victims advocates. And then one day, there was a shooting in Lakewood. 4 police officers were killed. I personally knew 2 of them. No one wanted those cases as far as defense. 7 individuals were charged. I represented one of them. It almost destroyed my practice. It almost destroyed relationships. I represented the sister of the killer, Maurice Clemens. LaTanya Clemens was her name. LaTanya was charged with aiding and abetting one of the individuals in that case. LaTanya went to trial. I represented her, and she was charged with rendering criminal assistance, 4 counts. She was found guilty of 2. No matter how I argued that she should not have been charged, it fell on deaf ear with the courts, because it was a very charged case. But she was entitled to representation like everyone else. Once she was convicted, her case was appealed. And the Court of Appeals sent it back for a full dismissal, because LaTanya's case was different than the other 6, in that she was associated with the shooter, had that familial relationship. It was her brother. But she was being held accountable for the actions of the man that assisted him, or is alleged to have assisted him. Tough case. Many attorneys turned it down. I did not. And I did not because I believed in LaTanya's case. You see, the premise of that case was the accomplice to the accomplice. And we have to be careful with the law. So, the Court of Appeals agreed, and that case was sent back for a full dismissal. And it was appealed to the Supreme Court, and they agreed it should be dismissed. That was the one case out of the 7 that should not have been charged. And the reason that's important is, having been a prosecutor and having been a defense attorney and now sitting on the bench, it's important to see that we don't lump people into labels and categories that they don't belong in. And why is that relevant? Well, you have law enforcement in this room, but we also have a disproportionate number of Black individuals coming before the courts. And we have a movement and movements, Black Lives Matter, Me Too. But you can't lump all officers, for example, in regards to Black Lives Matter, for the actions of some who may be deserving of the label of using excessive force. So we have to be careful. So I use LaTanya's case when I talk about her case and what I see happening today, because it's so easy to lump all into one group. I have many friends who would take a bullet for me to include correctional officers and law enforcement officers as I sit in robe on the bench. So we need to be very careful of lumping individuals who may not be responsible for those things. So 2010, that case almost destroyed my practice. But that's when I decided it was time to start looking at the bench. That is crazy. You're coming off of a case such as that and you're considering the bench? Have you lost your mind, Ms. Whitener? No. That's when I realized that diverse eyes and diverse experiences matter. That's when I realized that my voice was needed. All of the experiences and all of my marginalizations were relevant to the criminal justice system. So I started, and that was back in 2010. Interviewed twice with the Governor Gregoire, didn't get it. But each step I'm learning, I'm figuring out what needs to be done. Ran in 2012, didn't get it, reached out to my opponent, who is now my colleague on the bench. What's missing? He said civil, went to the Board of Industrial Insurance Appeals, and became a judge there, so I can get that civil experience. Then I applied in 2013 for this position with Governor Inslee. Didn't get it. Didn't give up. Remember, failure is not an option. You're talking about a girl that has had 3 jobs just about every different way it's done, prosecution, defense, pro temping, on all the levels. By the way, did I tell you that? I was a prosecutor, defense attorney, and a judicial officer on the City of Tacoma, Municipal Court, District Court, and Superior Court. I've held all 3 positions, of course, not at the exact same time, but I've held all 3 positions on my route to getting here. So failure is not an option. It should never be. But why are you here? You're here because you can make a difference in this system. I don't want to have to hear about Black Lives Matter unless you make it matter. Because I know it matters. Do you know it matters? And if so, what are you doing about it? Protesting is wonderful. How about you become part of the solution and not part of the problem? How about you become a law enforcement officer? How about you become a corrections officer? Because complaining is easy, doing something is not. How about you become a lawyer? Prosecution, defense, I don't care, just get involved. How about you become a judge? Please, I need help. We need help. Diverse eyes are needed. Now, diversity is not just color. I'm an example of that. It's immigrant status. It's religion. its work experiences, sexual orientation, its gender. Diversity matters. And that's why you should be saying to yourself, that's why I'm here, to make a difference. Our careers is a journey. Do not lock yourself into, I am going to school to be X. You will get there, or you may have already found that you are there. But remember, at 16, I started off thinking I'd be a teacher. And guess what? I still am. I teach every day, and every facet of my legal career I have been teaching, whether it was as a prosecutor teaching folks about the law and the impact it can have on the community, or as a defense attorney, as I teach jurors about my client's story, or as a judge when I teach street law at Lincoln High, or when I share my story with you. I'm teaching, it's just a different form of teaching. So understanding who you are and latching on to that core value will answer why you're here. I know why I'm here. I'm here to serve. I honestly don't care what the title is. I'm here to serve. I'm serving right now. I'm serving you with my story so that hopefully you will join me and the panelists in the criminal justice system in making a difference in whatever way you'd like to make a difference, where it matters and where it counts. Believe in yourself. You're going to have many obstacles and barriers to overcome. Don't let yourself place a barrier on you. And don't let others place labels on you that limit you. My labels: Black. I'm not supposed to be educated. I'm not supposed to be standing here. Female. I'm supposed to be home, raising babies, taking care of the home. Don't tell that to the law enforcement officers. They're carrying weapons. They are trained. They are strong. Immigrant. I'm supposed to not be here because I'm not welcome. Deport them. I am gay. I'm supposed to be a criminal just for who I am. Or I'm supposed to be scorned because of who I love. Well, I'm proud to say that I'm married. Yeah, can I imagine that? I can say that. I'm married. And I'm married to a retired command sergeant major out of the United States Army. And she's also an attorney. I am proud to say, yes, I am disabled and I'm working through an able-bodied world. And if you don't make room for me, I make room for myself. So when you decide on the criminal justice system, just remember there are different parts, but you are needed. You have something to say. So I will end with what I always say about me. Be vocal. Be visible. Because if they can't see you, they can't serve you. Because you can't be counted. And be vigilant. Because there are many obstacles you will face on your path. But when you hit that road and you hit that wall, I'd like you to remember Judge Whitener. Hello, she has elevated now to Judge Whitener. She's no longer struggling with finances, but she's struggling daily with microaggressions regarding her marginalized status. But yet, she has not let it limit her. So when it gets hard and when it gets difficult, I want you to remember me. And remember, it is possible. And remember my struggles. It wasn't easy, but it can be done. Stay strong. Thank you.